Come on, hurry up and leave. Our family is a family of doctors. Having a middle school dropout in a wheelchair is a disgrace to our family. If you oppose, the engagement is off. At my brother's wedding, I, in a wheelchair, was shooed away by the bride's parents. Why must I be treated like trash for being in a wheelchair and dropping out of middle school? I just want my brother to be happy. What should I do? Let's go home. At that moment, who stood up in front of my in-laws was none other than my brother. I'm calling off this marriage. I can't stand being with such a rude family. I was amazed at his firm stance. My name is Kristen. I'm a typical 27-year-old who loves going out for sweets and supporting my favorite boy band. But one thing clearly sets me apart. I'm in a wheelchair. I started using it after a traffic accident in my second year of middle school, which led to the amputation of part of my left leg. My father, who was driving, passed away. The grief of losing my father and the shock of losing part of my leg left me unable to even leave the house for a while. I struggled to attend school, but thanks to my friends and teachers, I somehow managed to graduate from middle school. Given my situation, I couldn't take high school entrance exams, and my mother didn't push me. Unable to think about the future, I decided to focus on rehabilitation, which turned out to be the right decision. Thanks to meeting wonderful doctors and physical therapists, I gradually regained hope and positivity. Of course, my family support was significant. Now, my wheelchair is an important part of me. There are inconveniences, but I don't find this life shameful. I have an older brother, 3 years my senior, who recently got married. He's incredibly kind and warm-hearted. He cried more than I did when I became wheelchair-bound, and always encouraged me. His presence was significant, especially since our father had passed away, and our mother was worn out with grief. Thanks to my brother, my mother and I could live positively without despairing about life. His marriage was the happiest news for our family. His fiancée Tiffany came to our house for the first time. After greeting my mother, my brother brought her to my room. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Please do," I replied. "This is Tiffany." My brother introduced her to me. His future bride, a bit shyly, introduced herself to me. "Nice to meet you, I'm Kristen, Dan's sister," she said cheerfully. "I'm Tiffany, nice to meet you too." She was a beautiful woman with distinct features. "Brother, are you serious? She's your fiancée? She's gorgeous." That night, as I teased him like that, my brother laughed shyly. It's not that I chose her because of her looks, but I won't lie. I was over the moon when such a cute girl approached me. Honest. "Really, congratulations, bro." "Yeah, thanks." The preparations for my brother's wedding seemed to be progressing well, and I was looking forward to the ceremony. Little did I know what awaited us on the wedding day. It was a small chapel, so only our families attended the ceremony. We were planning a grand reception later to celebrate with relatives and friends. My mother and I were the first to arrive at the chapel. When I moved from my wheelchair to the chapel seat, a staff member folded the wheelchair and placed it aside. I was impressed by how well they had arranged the space, hiding it with decorations and flowers, so it wouldn't be in the way of the wedding photographers. I felt relieved that it wouldn't disturb the ceremony. The bride, in her wedding dress, was stunning, and my brother looked more gallant than ever. The ceremony ended smoothly, and as the couple exited, the staff quickly brought my wheelchair to me. As I was seated and expressing my thanks, I heard a voice say, "What?" and noticed someone looking at us. It was the bride's parents approaching briskly. "Ah, the ceremony was wonderful, wasn't it?" Ignoring my mother, who had stood up to greet them, they both stared intently at me. "You're the groom's sister, right? What's with this wheelchair?" I was confused by the question. "This is my wheelchair, but what do you mean, what? What's this about? Why are you in a wheelchair at your own brother's wedding? Did you get hurt falling down or something?" The bride's father was inexplicably furious. "It's not a recent injury. I've been in a wheelchair since a traffic accident when I was 14. His reaction was so exaggerated that I was the one who ended up surprised. My mother also looked bewildered. Maybe the bride hadn't told them. I thought my brother would have mentioned it. Perhaps they were just taken aback by encountering someone in a wheelchair. What a thing. It's good the ceremony was just family. Yes, really. It would have been terrible if the guests had found out. What's going on? Whispering to each other, the bride's parents seemed to be in a serious discussion. Tentatively, I asked them what was going on, and the father glared at me sharply. Kristen, could you please not attend the reception? What? Why? I was dumbstruck by this unexpected request. You should be the one asking yourself, why did you even dare to come to the ceremony so boldly? The guests are about to arrive. It's embarrassing to have someone in a wheelchair, so please leave before they get here. The bride's mother was nodding, as if it was the most natural thing. My mother and I were completely baffled. What? Just then, the bride and groom, who were getting dressed in the back room for the reception, appeared. Is something wrong? Dad, Mom, what's happening? I heard from the coordinator that there seems to be some problem. Look at her. Prompted by her mother, the bride looked at me and widened her eyes in surprise. Like parents, like daughter, her expression was a mirror image of her parents' earlier reaction. Wait, Kristen, you're in a wheelchair? The bride asked my brother in disbelief. Yes, I told you about this, didn't I? My brother's demeanor was calm and unchanged. I heard about the accident a long time ago, but I didn't know she was in a wheelchair. I did tell you. And when you visited our house to meet the family, you saw her, right? She wasn't using a wheelchair then. She was just sitting in a regular chair. Well, she doesn't use the wheelchair much inside the house. She's been living like this for over 10 years now, and she moves around smoothly indoors. It seemed the bride and her parents were unaware that I relied on a wheelchair. Oh my, what a deception. The bride's mother raised her voice in anger. Deception? What do you mean? Well, you hid the fact that your sister was in a wheelchair, didn't you? I didn't hide anything. I'm sure I mentioned it to both of you. My brother looked genuinely puzzled. Besides, our house has handrails everywhere, and the wheelchair was there. Right? I didn't see any of that. But we included my sister's situation in the wedding planning as a consideration. All I cared about was my dress and the makeover. Everything else was up to you. What? But it's our wedding. Besides, I'm marrying you. I'm not interested in your sister. My brother was taken aback by the bride's lack of empathy. Clearly, the bride and her parents hadn't been listening to anything my brother said. With my mind racing, I spoke up, not wanting to cause any trouble for my brother. I'm in a wheelchair, but it hardly affects my daily life. I work normally and won't be a burden to Dan and you. Then the bride's father snorted. Yeah, right. Just to add, I work in the medical field. I tried to explain my job and its relation to my wheelchair, but the bride's father interrupted me, shouting, "That's why I'm telling you to leave early and not trouble us." What do you mean? My brother's face hardened. Well, let me ask then. What's your educational background? Although I didn't see where this was going, I answered honestly. Well, I had an accident when I was 14, and just managing to graduate was a struggle. I didn't go to high school. So you're a middle school graduate. I thought as much. The bride's parents sighed dramatically. But, although I only completed middle school afterwards, I tried to continue, but the bride's father cut me off again. Listen, our family is full of doctors, all graduates from prestigious universities. Your brother is a top-notch doctor respected at his university hospital. That's why we allowed him to marry our daughter. Yes, I understand. I'm glad you do. Please leave. I'm sorry, but I don't understand why I can't attend my brother's wedding reception. You still don't get it? Typical of a middle school graduate. The bride's mother continued, frowning. Basically, we're elites. Our relatives and acquaintances are all high-status individuals like doctors and lawyers. Those attending the reception are such distinguished people. I see, bride's mother, so we don't want you there, in your wheelchair and as a middle school dropout. You'd be out of place, wouldn't you? We don't want you to embarrass your brother. Neither my brother nor I are ashamed of the wheelchair. I want to celebrate as his sister. Hearing my words, the father scoffed. Unbelievable. This is why I dislike middle school dropouts. And to top it off, this situation, the bride's father gestured dismissively towards the wheelchair. Why does being in a wheelchair mean I should not attend? How many times do I have to say this? Our family is a family of doctors. Having a relative in a wheelchair and a middle school dropout is a disgrace to our family. If you oppose, the marriage is off. I was speechless at the word marriage off, and the bride's father smirked at my reaction. Are you okay with ruining your brother's marriage? He is supposed to marry my daughter and work at our clinic. He will join a family of doctors and have a bright future ahead. I was at a loss for words. I wanted to object, but the memory of my brother's happy face when he told me about his marriage came to mind. I couldn't bear the thought of being the reason for ruining my beloved brother's marriage. At that moment, my mother gently touched my hand. She wanted to protect me, but seemed hesitant considering my brother's situation. Just as I was about to speak with tearful eyes, my brother, who had been silently listening, spoke up. Let's go home then. But Dan, if this is how it's going to be, let's leave. I'm sorry for not understanding the situation earlier, brother. A wise decision indeed. Groom, the bride's father nodded in satisfaction. I'm really sorry for making you go through this. Come on, let's go home together. Multiple voices overlapped. Are you coming with us? Of course. With you and Mom, I was flustered. But what about the reception? Yes, that's right. You don't need to see them off. I'm not just seeing them off, I'm leaving too. Kristen is my precious sister. I have no intention of becoming family with people who don't accept her, my brother said firmly. Let's go, Kristen. Lam. Okay, wait. Amidst this back and forth, a resonant voice echoed. It seems quite lively here. The reception hasn't started yet, has it? Everyone turned towards the source of the voice. Doctor. The person who appeared was Dr. Ford, the clinic's director and the chairman of a medical corporation. He was known by all medical professionals in the county. Congratulations on your daughter's wedding. Thank you. We heard you would be late due to a conference. Yes, but I managed to finish early and came here. But what's happening? This is such an honor. Indeed. Please come this way to the head table as the bride's parents eagerly tried to usher him. Dr. Ford halted them before that. I have something to confirm. Yes. It seems like you're trying to kick out this lady here. What's the reasoning behind this? No. Actually, we were just saying that she doesn't have to attend the reception because her being in a wheelchair is embarrassing. I was momentarily stunned at the father's blatant double talk. This woman would never say that being in a wheelchair is embarrassing. Taken aback by Dr. Ford's assertive tone, the bride's parents let out dumbfounded sounds. Kristen, it's been a while, hasn't it? Dr. Ford turned to me and smiled warmly. Yes, it's been a long time. Watching our familiar interaction, the bride's father's complexion changed. Dr. Ford, do you know her? Of course. Aren't you aware she's the groom's sister? Well, of course we know her. Dan's sister, the middle school dropout in a wheelchair. Dr. Ford queried the flustered father. Do you know her profession? Profession? She's unemployed, isn't she? You must be joking. It's a shame you don't know, especially since you're becoming family. What brand of wheelchairs does your clinic use? Wheelchairs? Oh, from the top company in the industry which you, Dr. Ford, are also involved in developing? Yes. You must also know about the new electric wheelchair we're launching. Our hospital is planning to introduce it. It's highly acclaimed, and we plan to introduce it at our clinic. We've even invited the company's manager today. Feeling he had smoothed things over, the father proudly puffed up his chest. Dr. Ford pressed on. Kristen is involved in developing that electric wheelchair. The bride's family looked shocked. Oh, he's testing the new product. He still didn't seem to grasp the situation. Not just testing. Her job is developing and improving wheelchairs. What? That's impossible. She was hospitalized at my father's hospital at the time of her accident. I've known her since then. She continued her rehabilitation. And when the company needed someone to help with wheelchair improvements, I recommended her. Oh, I see. She's giving feedback on the wheelchairs. It's something only a wheelchair user can do. The bride's mother, looking down on me, didn't seem to realize the absurdity of her comment. Initially, that was the case. But she's incredibly intelligent and is now a member of the development team. This revelation clarified my role. That's impossible. But she's just a middle school graduate. She couldn't possibly be involved in development. Your thinking is as outdated as a fossil, madam. What? Facing the bride's mother, who was now flushed red from Dr. Ford's words, I looked her straight in the eye. It's true that I didn't go to high school, but I took the high school equivalency exam. After that, I studied engineering on my own. Engineering? Meeting Dr. Ford and the physical therapists inspired me while helping with wheelchair company surveys during my rehabilitation. I wanted to study more and be useful. How could someone who only finished middle school do that? That's when my brother intervened. Kristen has always been more talented than me. She probably inherited that from our father, who was an engineer. What? That can't be true. If it's real, why didn't you tell us? Dr. Ford, we've been lied to. Deceived. My brother continued with a cold look. We did tell you about the wheelchair and her job, but you didn't listen at all. I had to speak up too. Earlier I tried to talk about my job, but you wouldn't listen. As soon as you saw the wheelchair, all you could say was, for me to leave. What? My brother then turned to Tiffany. I'm truly surprised that you didn't listen either. You just said so yourself. Even if you only learned about my sister today, wouldn't it be normal to show some concern or offer help? But you and your parents just changed your tone and demanded she not attend the wedding. I'm deeply disappointed. This harsh criticism from my brother sparked an internal conflict among Tiffany and her parents. No, that's not true. I just followed what Mom and Dad said. They were the ones who said terrible things to your sister. Wait, what are you saying? I only did it because my husband ordered me to. Wait, Dr. Ford, it's not like that. It was my foolish wife's idea to kick her out. I tried to stop her. What? Did you just call me a foolish wife? That's not the point. My brother interrupted their blame game. This is unbearable. As I said before, I can't become family with people like you. The wedding is off. Wait, are you going to embarrass me right before the reception? Everyone has gathered. Do you intend to shame our family of doctors? You are the ones who told me to leave. I expressed my anger. There's no proof of that. You just heard us wrong. Now bride and groom, go back to preparing for the reception. And you, push your sister's wheelchair. I was impressed by the bride's father's complete turnaround, but I knew I had to convey the truth. There is evidence that the staff heard everything, and we also requested a video recording of today, so everything has been captured. What? What nonsense. It's a disgrace to have a middle school dropout in a wheelchair in our family. But I'm tolerating you for now. Just follow along quietly, you impudent girl. Dad. The bride's father hastily covered his mouth, his face turning pale. Wait. Dr. Ford's eyes shone with intensity. No, what I said just now, it was just a figure of speech, a slip of the tongue. It's too late for excuses. And it's not just me, everyone here has heard it. It's fortunate, really, as it saves me the trouble of explaining. Indeed, the reception was delayed as the bride, groom, and their parents were embroiled in a dispute in the venue, surrounded by guests. It was inevitable. The attendees were whispering among themselves, casting cold glances at the scene. Your clinic won't be able to introduce the new electric wheelchairs. The rental contract is certainly over as well. What? Why? The company's manager is right there. Other doctors and stakeholders must have heard how you insulted Kristen. My brother placed his hand on my wheelchair. Let's go. We don't need to be family with these people. Yes, thank you, Dr. Ford. I didn't do anything. I just stated the facts. Wait, the reception. What about me? What should I do now? Ignoring the crying family of the bride, I pushed my wheelchair forward. Eventually, the reception was canceled. My brother apologized to the attendees, explaining the reason. The bride's family tried to deny it, but with Dr. Ford's testimony, no one believed them. Besides, most attendees had witnessed our exchange. 3 months later, the Holmes Clinic, having lost the trust of Dr. Ford and other medical professionals, also lost its relationship with that company. The bride's father, who had only boasted of being the eldest son, was now shunned even by his own relatives after the wedding fiasco. The incident quickly spread among the reception attendees. Who would trust a doctor who looks down on people in wheelchairs? They said. The clinic's patients dwindled, and nurses and reception staff left one after another. It was rumored that the clinic would close by the end of the year. The former bride, now with a stigma because of her parents, became estranged from her friends and was seen frequenting the nightlife district. As for me, I felt guilty for my brother's broken engagement and apologized many times. But he was quite philosophical about it. I should be the one apologizing. I hurt you because I failed to see the truth, but I have no regrets. Besides, working at Dr. Ford's hospital is a step up for me. His smile was genuinely carefree. He had left his job at the university hospital to work at his would-be in-laws clinic. But Dr. Ford had invited him to join the Ford clinic. I've heard about your excellent work at the university hospital, so there's no problem at all. This was a relief to me and our mother. As for me, I was approached to join a project team developing not just wheelchairs, but also care robots. With America's aging population, there are various challenges in both care and medical fields. Care robots are one of the solutions being developed to address these issues. Despite the challenges in development and dissemination, they are considered essential for America's future. I feel very fortunate to be involved in such work. Every experience and encounter can significantly alter one's life, depending on how they are perceived. I despaired when I first became wheelchair-bound, and I still feel frustration. But instead of counting my losses, I want to live finding things that only I can do. If I can use my pain and sorrow to bring smiles to others, there's nothing more gratifying. I am me and you are you. Each of us is irreplaceable and precious in our own way. Each of us is unique and valuable in our own way.